Alright, how's it going everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another video on the newest Trackmania platform tracks. Recapping the first 2 weeks here to start out. The first week I was very disappointed in the tracks. They were just so darn easy and left a lot to be desired, and at that time I did not know they were releasing any more tracks, so I thought that was the only 5 tracks we were going to get, and again, I was very disappointed in that, but learning they were releasing a new set every single week, my hopes were much higher, especially after the second week of tracks here, which we got were pretty darn good. I was very surprised at the quality of those. The only one I didn't really like was track number 8, the ice track. Didn't really feel like a true platform track. There was only a couple of jumps in there and one that really only mattered all that much. So yeah, overall a very nice set of tracks in the second week. So I was very interested to see how the difficulty would step up and the quality of tracks would step up here in the third week. So let's get it started here with track number 11. And track number 11 here is called Bulrush, and honestly I didn't mind this track at all. It was a pretty good track overall. There were some sections on it that I didn't care for all that much. They felt like they had a little bit of RNG in it, but overall a very solid track here. Again, I enjoyed the large majority of it. Interesting aspect on this one is there are a couple of tech turns, but you can also opt to not go for the drifts, like that turn there. You can very easily drift on an inside line, but I always took it around that circle. Just felt it was a much easier setup. And this jump here was the one I struggled on the most, dropping down into like the half loop. I always jumped way too far to the left to jump into it. You want to jump more towards the center. But upcoming here, passing next checkpoint is the part I didn't care for. First of all, the jump down into the black part. There's like a small gap between two things here. Very easily can clip those. And then this jump here, I struggled with a lot as well. It felt like a lot of the times I would jump up there, I would be a little bit sideways, and then my car would just go into a turtle. It was just a super annoying jump. But again, overall, track number 11 here was pretty nice. Now we have track 12, Cobalt Cove. Starting out here in water. Honestly, this track was kind of a pain in the ass, if I'm being honest. I encountered multiple bugs on this track, or what I believe to be bugs. Some of our definitely are bugs. Like the landing on plastic and then kind of like bouncing backwards, even though your landing was perfectly fine. That was happening a lot on Deep Dip 2, and that happened to me a few times on this track. I also had an issue with jumping off some of the pipes, especially the first pipe in the track, where I would jump off of it and then just instantaneously like lose all my speed. That was pretty annoying. And then another aspect of this one, water for me, for whatever reason, is super laggy for me, so I always have problems with tracks that contain a lot of water. The game just stutters a ton, and it's just an absolute pain to drive. Not sure what I can do to fix that. It has always been a problem for me in this game, despite multiple computer upgrades. So yeah, that was not the greatest aspect of this track for me. Things I struggled with on this track, can't really say there was a ton. I'm not the greatest pipe driver in the world. I don't have a ton of experience with it. I have not really played all that much Royale, especially, anytime recent. I did play way back when it first released, but pretty much nothing since. So that, I guess, driving on the pipes was the only thing I really struggled with on this one. But once you get the hang of it, it's really not all that bad. So this track, it's hard to give a fair opinion on with all the problems I have with this, track in general, but I guess, it was all right. Now track number 13 here, called Carmel. This one has a very interesting start because there are tons of different ways you can get the second checkpoint, and even the third and fourth checkpoint, I believe. There are plenty of different routes to get to everything there. This is a route I chose to take to get to this first checkpoint. It might be the fastest route, I'm not sure, because there are no replays from anybody else. But yeah, that jump up to the upper level, followed by the bonk into the wall to skip the backwards booster part, and then just doing one of the backwards boosters instead of like, I think there's 3 of them altogether. So I highly recommend skipping as many of those as you can because they are fairly annoying. The rest of the track, I don't really have a problem with anything else on the rest of the track. There was another pretty misleading part later on in the track, just like the start. where you do not want to jump where the arrow is pointing. You want to jump much further to the right of that opening arrow. There will be a section here coming up after this jump here where there's arrows on the right hand side across the water. Do not take those. Again, very misleading. You're just going to screw yourself if you try to take that. Go over to the left and take a completely different route. The end here, you can definitely take a big jump up to that checkpoint. It is a little bit tricky because you have that black support, which is extremely easy to hit. And if you hit that, you are probably going to flip and turtle and again, screw yourself. And this jump here into the finish is also a little bit tricky. You need to get it pretty darn good to make this pretty big speed check. And now we have track number 14, which is called Island Hopping, and you're going to be doing exactly that on the track. There's kind of these multiple different islands on the track, all have their own color scheme, all have their own driving scheme as well. Honestly, I thought this was kind of the easiest track out of the bunch. Really, the only things that make it difficult, in my opinion, are the length of the track being about like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Very, very long. And then on top of that, you have the, what in my opinion are the two hardest obstacles in the entire game are right at the end of the track. So that kind of just makes this track a pain to drive because in my opinion, nothing is all too difficult up until that point. So you're banking, you know, an entire 2+ minute run on getting the last two tricks, which again is just an absolute pain. So yeah, that was definitely the most challenging aspect of the track for me at the very end there with the ice stuff. But as far as the part I like the most about this track, it was definitely the upside down driving section that is coming up here. I didn't care for this flight here all that much because you get these weird little zoops off those pipes or whatever. That was really annoying. But yeah, this upside down driving section here was pretty cool. Honestly, I wouldn't mind like a full track in this style, not even platform, just like a regular campaign track, a track of the day. Driving upside down with the reactor boost. It's pretty fun, a rather cool, rather unique experience, and again, I wouldn't mind more of that. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this track. I'll let the rest play out, and I will see you guys again with track 15. And here we are with the final track of the set, track number 15, this one called Padauk. Mainly focused on the wood surface, which is definitely not great news for me. I use a lot of quick tapping movements in order to drive, and on wood it is very easy to quickly oversteer in a direction, especially if you are about to jump somewhere. If you quickly tap right before the end of the jump, your jump is probably going to overshoot either left or right of wherever you're trying to jump. So yeah, that was definitely the most challenging aspect for me on this one. That again is completely on me. You definitely need to learn how to drive on wood a little bit better, and kind of just need to learn how to drive a more smooth steering style in general. There was one aspect on this one that I didn't care for all that much, which will be coming up a little bit later here. But I'd say the most challenging part, other than my driving, is this section here with the wet wood. Need a really big jump here, a nice flick, and you also need to be very precise on that landing. But this jump upcoming here is the part I hated the most. Off the grass here into this checkpoint, it felt like half the time I would just get an absolutely horrible jump. My car would be flipping all over the place, and it was kind of just a disaster and a pretty uncalculated jump in general. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this track and all the tracks here in week number 3. Overall, I had a pretty good time on them, and I'm excited to see how much the difficulty ramps up next week. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.